great. You are listening to Pro Talk Wrestling here on Spreaker.com, also available on YouTube as well as SoundCloud, guys. What an interesting weekend it was for RoadBlock. Going to talk about that as well as a preview onto what's going on for Monday Night Raw tonight, and also a couple rumors that have been going on. But let's start off with one of the things that has been frequently talked about lately, and that is Vince McMahon and Triple H had seemingly not been getting on the same page, and they've just been really butting heads lately. And the main thing that they've been butting heads about is Finn Balor. What is going to be going on with Finn Balor? What are we going to see Finn Balor call out to the main roster? What can we expect from him and the Bullet Club? Just trying to get Finn Balor on the main roster is what Vince wants to do, and Triple H is saying, no, now is not the right time. Now, from my standpoint, I can understand that, because Finn Balor is a major player on NXT right now, and he is one of those guys who's really far over. Definitely when you're thinking about Finn Balor, think about the NXT title, he is one of those guys who really just pushes the bar to a new height. And it is one of those things that is very hard to just replace. So they definitely do need to find somebody who's going to possibly fill in for Finn Balor. Maybe they could have a big-time heel. I think that's one of those things that they have not done since, I believe it was Big E Langston, because he was a heel, I believe, and he was undefeated in NXT before Bo Dallas came in and won the title. But maybe they just need to find a big-time heel to take that NXT spot and then build up a new babyface. As far as, Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows, I know that they were supposed to debut this month, but they have not put in when, if they're going to have him go to the main roster or have them go to NXT. The main talk was about going to the main roster, but that might have changed, and that may indeed vary, because there might be a good possibility they could show up at NXT Dallas TakeOver and, have Finn Balor win the title, because the Bullet Club, Bulletproof, whatever you want to mention it as, may be interfering in his match with Samoa Joe. Now, I think that Finn Balor is still one of those guys who's a work in progress right now. I'm not saying that he is absolutely horrible. I just think that his character is still a little bit lackluster, and also, it's great to see him come out as the Demon. I think that it's one of those things I love to see about him when he comes out in, the Demon paint, or whether he's in London looking like Jack the Ripper, whether he comes out looking like some random spikied bat or whatever. He just looks so amazing when it comes to big-time pay-per-view events. Now, I'm looking forward to the day that he comes to WrestleMania, and it is one of the best, most talked about entrances in WrestleMania's history. But we will see what happens going in to TakeOver Dallas, as well as WrestleMania. And also WrestleMania is another thing. They have really not pushed that much in the way of the card, and there's been a lot of confusion, especially going into Roadblock, where they thought, okay, this is the way they're going to do it, but then they changed so much of it. Originally, I believe it was supposed to be Brock Lesnar versus Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania, but then they changed that to Brock versus Dean, and now they had the whole thing with him getting into the world title picture at Roadblock, and now people are thinking, well, okay, are they just going to pull Dean from that match and put Bray in the spot? Nobody really knows. Everybody's all confused. I mean, there's rumors about the Intercontinental title be Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn. I'd be perfectly okay with that. There's also rumors of the United States title matchup being Kalisto versus Ryback. Ryback's getting a major push as far as, a heel goes, which I'm okay with. I think that, the way he's doing things right now, he's actually a more serious monster heel. He's really just becoming this guy who just goes out and just dominates. And I think that is working perfectly for him. I think that it's kind of hard to think that, Kalisto versus Ryback would put Bucks in the seats, but maybe they can make it into a multi-man match for the U.S. title. I don't know. I mean, for all we know, they could make, the main event be a six-pack, elimination match, which would be interesting because you would think about it. You would have maybe 6 guys going in there. You could have Roman Reigns, Triple H, Dean Ambrose, Brock Lesnar, Bray Wyatt, and one other person, somebody who could really use that main event spot. I mean, you could think about it. I mean, who would be a viable, contender for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship? I mean, it could be, it could indeed be Ryback. It could indeed be throw Kane in there, Big Show, give them their last WrestleMania moment. Maybe throw Mark Henry in there because it's his, last possible WrestleMania. Maybe even through somebody new like Neville. He's a definite main event caliber superstar right now, and I think that he would be really good to put in there and have him go up against guys like that and say, hey, this could be a guy that we could rely on for, main event level deals. Another person they could put in is Dolph Ziggler. I mean, they could throw in Kevin Owens as kind of a surprise. There's a lot that they could do with that, but I guess we're going to have to wait and see what goes on there. All right, enough riffing. Let's talk about RoadBlock. RoadBlock was honestly not the worst pay-per-view that they've had, and it definitely was a lot better than Fastlane. I think, pillar to post, bell to bell, it was honestly a pretty good event. Despite it being, somewhat of a house show, it was still one of those events that I thought, okay, I mean, I have no idea what they could do, but they started off pretty well. Kicked off the show with the tag team title matchup, which featured New Day against the League of Nations, thank God, Sheamus and Wade Barrett. And honestly, I said that this matchup was going to be a pretty good matchup because of Wade Barrett and Sheamus are indeed good stars, and do believe they've been a team before. But before they got into the matchup, of course, Big E Langston, Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods, they did a short plug for Booty-O's, and Big E actually got on his knees and acted like he was a little 5-year-old, saying like, I don't want to eat my Booty-O's. And Kofi and Xavier are just like, now son, you know what happens when you don't have your Booty-O's. What happens? That I will be an O like Del Rio. Alright, and I will be a king without a kingdom like Wade Barrett. And I'll look stupid like Sheamus. And, well, we skipped this part. Oh, well, we didn't have anything for Rusev, which is kind of a bit of a low blow to Rusev, considering, he was a monster heel last year. But he hasn't done that much since, WrestleMania time, so I guess it's kind of understandable. And I guess that's what happens when you deal with a guy by the name of John Cena. Shots fired, hashtag. So we go into the matchup, and it was really good. You saw a lot of the high-flying deals of Kofi Kingston and quite a bit of the power game by Big E. But Sheamus and Barrett actually really made you convinced that, oh my gosh, these guys might actually have a chance. They might actually be a great, formidable team. And they were. The ending happened with Sheamus hitting this awkward suplex-like deal, which got Big E on his knees. Barrett hit like a side kick to the head, covers Xavier Woods. He gets involved, and Barrett tries to hit him, but Kofi takes out Sheamus, and then we see Big E hit the big ending. 1, 2, 3, and that is it. That is all. The League of Nations do not get a tag team title run, and they continue their run of 204 days as champion. Now, when I had to actually look up to see who their longest reigning champions, and from what I can recall, it was Demolition, actually. I think they believe they had 456 days as tag team champions. And the fact that, New Day is getting surprisingly really close to that really tells you how much they're really pushing these guys. I mean, they've held the tag team titles longer since, like, the last, I want to say it's been almost a decade since somebody's held the tag team titles for that long. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. They did have London and Kendrick hold on to the titles for quite a long time. Almost a year, but not quite there yet. All right, so we go into the next matchup, which features a Y2J segment, an additional bonus match. This was one of 2 bonus matches that were put on, and it was Y2J coming out talking about, how it's like, oh, Canada sucks and you Canadians don't know anything and blah, 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 says the man who's originally from Canada. So it was very cool to see Y2J just continue to be this heel, putting down everybody and everything like that. And then they have Jack Swagger come out, and it's a match between Swagger and Chris Jericho. Why, God, why? And yes, Vince McMahon is quote-unquote God, so it's like, why? Well, why must you torture us still with this whole thing? You torture us with Eva Marie every single Wednesday with her, fake boobs and her fake red hair and her fake personality, or lack of fake personality, I guess you could say. But this matchup was relatively okay. I mean, it was kind of one of those things I thought, there's better things that they could put on the card. Y2J makes Swagger tap out to the walls of Jericho, and then after the matchup, Jericho goes down the rampway, grabs a sign from the girl, and tears it up. And apparently it was a get well Brett sign, and it's caused a lot of bit of a hoopla. So good to see how good. At least Jericho didn't mention anything about Bret Hart and his medical situation. Thank God for that. All right, we go into the matchup that I called it. I said it was going to be match of the night, and this was definitely a tie for the Divas Championship match, which I'll talk about in just a minute. But it was Enzo Amore and Big Cass against the Revival, Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder. Great matchup. Honestly, pillar to post all around, just perfect matchup. Everything that they did was just amazing. Everything there really just made you think, oh, wow. I mean, there actually came a point where it was like, Enzo and Cass, they might actually do it. They might actually do it. We got to see Enzo get thrown for the top rope over onto the Revival. We saw Big Cass just going through Big Boot City, big boot after big boot after big boot, which I'm totally fine with. We saw Enzo coming very close. Unfortunately, the matchup ended with Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder hitting their finisher, a super finisher, where I think it was Dawson had Enzo up, and then Wilder hits the knees to the face for the top rope. 1, 2, 3. Revival are still the tag team champions, and they are really doing good right now as a tag team. I think they're getting over as heels. They're definitely going to be a formidable team coming to the main roster. And this also says to me that they are slowly edging their way into putting Enzo and Cass onto the main roster. Please, Lord, I want to see this so bad. I want to see Enzo and Cass come to the main roster, face the New Day at WrestleMania. That would just be amazing. Even if they just decide to do even when they just decide to do this deal where they have an open challenge at WrestleMania, and then you see Enzo and Cass come out, that would be even better, because nobody would expect it to happen at WrestleMania of all places, and then having them win the tag team titles, it's like, why not? I know people would say, well, how come they could beat the New Day, but they can't beat the Revival? Well, New Day's all about, Bootios, which is not a cereal, sadly. But it was still one of those things that really would be very interesting. Plus, people would probably get over the New Day like that, no problem. All right, so now, like I said, from one match of the night to another match of the night, it was the Divas matchup, in which we saw Natalya versus Charlotte challenging each other. I didn't think so much of this matchup. It was just kind of like, it might not work out. I mean, Natalya did do a nice thing, saying that she would dedicate it to her uncle Brett. But, boy, was I surprised at how this matchup went down. It was just fully amazing. Everything that you could expect. Charlotte almost got, pinned quite a few times. She got caught in the sharpshooter.